Fallout 3 came out 15 years ago today, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why this is still one of my favorite games of all time, even after 15 years of playing it and 15 years of game advancements. And part of this video, we're also going to be unboxing the collector's edition of Fallout 3, talking about how collection editions were a lot simpler back then, and I kind of miss it, and looking at the game guide and the map, and just reminiscing on what a beautiful game this is. So if you don't already, like and subscribe, and let's get into it. Alright, so Fallout 3 will always be one of my favorite games. It was the game that got me to buy the Xbox 360 way back in the day. This was so long ago now, it's kind of amazing to me to look back on. Like, I bought the Xbox 360 and I bought one game, and that game was Fallout 3 because I was at a friend's house earlier that day watching them play Fallout 3 on their couch, and I thought, this is beautiful. I grew up in a very like 1950s diner style house. My mom's just really into that style, and she's an interior designer, so she's like really good at getting all kinds of furniture and things like that. I'll give you a house tour of their house eventually. It's not the same house I grew up in, but it's all the same stuff. So something about watching that and mixed with my pure obsession with radiation and nuclear energy and nuclear war and stuff like that. I grew up near a nuclear power plant. We've talked about it on this channel before. You can go back and watch those videos. But there's this deep fascination I have with nuclear energy, nuclear power, and then also that like 50s style is just something I grew up appreciating because it's so classic and cool looking. So we're going to talk about Fallout 3 and just like get deeper into why it's still just so nostalgic for me. I just found a sewing needle in this collector's edition. You can tell my collector's edition has held a lot of random stuff in the past. So first things first, this is the collector's edition case. It's a little shinier and a little more rectangular than the other cases that you can get. Lunch boxes you can get. Mine is a little dented. I have 2 or 3 of these. The Australian version was longer and had more to it, but we're going to be unboxing like the American version. I don't have the plastic that held Vault Boy in place in here, or at least I don't know where it is right now, but this is what you would have gotten for the collector's edition of Fallout 3. You would have gotten this lunchbox. There's something so classic about this collector's edition. It's so appealing to me. It's a little bit more rectangular than the other like fan wraps lunchboxes you could have gotten because it had to hold a specific book, which is one of my favorite parts of this. So this collector's edition would have had a Vault Boy bobblehead. I love this bobblehead, but it needs to be re-glued. I think this was a slightly different than the one that came in the collector's edition because it has a solid base, which the ones that came in the collector's edition were a little more plasticky and a little less ceramic than this one. So I don't know. I've theorized that this is a special one that was given to Bethesda people, but I'm not fully sure on that. So this is what he looks like. It's a lot simpler and a lot more like, just like, I don't know how to describe it. It's so different than the bobbleheads that we have now for, I mean, obviously they later on released, Gaming Heads released the bobbleheads for Fallout 3. I bought the whole series. I have them. They're in storage because I don't have the space in this small apartment. But he's stout. He's far more stout compared to like the ones that are like this size. I just love that about him. And this guy's ceramic, so he's heavy. He has the 101. It is actually like 3D on the back. You can tell it's like actually has a relief to it. And then it also says Fallout 3 on the base of it, which is pretty cool. I have this guy on my desk. He pretty much lives there. He's one of my favorite. His head fell off. He's one of my favorite collector's items that I own just because he's a little quirky. He's a little different. Along with this, you would have gotten, of course, a copy of the game. I have that in my console, but a DVD of the making of Fallout 3. This is what it looks like. It's very classic Fallout 3 look. And then this is the back. It's got the little, like holotape details and stuff like that. And in this, obviously, is a disc with a DVD. And this is what the disc looks like. Very classic. Love the disc here. I'll hold it right side up for you. I don't want to touch it for too long just because fingerprints and things like that. And this is actually in really good condition. If you're lucky, you could find this on eBay for pretty cheap. I have like 2 collector's editions of Fallout 3. I did give one of the bobbleheads away to one of my friends. That was the more plasticky one that I think actually came with the collector's edition. I think this guy's a special version. I don't know why. But I have actually like 2 copies of this and 2 copies of the next thing I'm going to pull out of here for you. So set that bad boy aside. So the next thing we have here is the art book for Fallout 3. It's very small compared to the other art books that you get, like Fallout 4's collector's edition art book. Like that is separate from the collector's edition of the game. It's very big. It's thick. It's got like golden like sides of the pages. I'll show that for Fallout 4 later on. But this is just very classic. I have 2 copies of this book. You can usually find them on eBay for relatively cheap if you know where to look. Honestly, at this point, just shop on Mercari. People on Mercari tend not to overprice stuff as much as people do on eBay. Like I'm looking at the full collector's edition of Fallout 3 and it is $250. It's too much. You can get it in parts too for cheaper than as a whole, which is what I did. So this is the collector's edition of Fallout 3 art book. This is my favorite because this is Adam Adamowitz's work, who is now since passed. He had cancer and he passed away, unfortunately. But he was the lead concept artist of Fallout 3, and he just did such an absolutely beautiful job. And his art is throughout this book. You can find probably PDFs of this everywhere online. I've seen pictures of it, but there's just something about owning the book that makes it so special to me. Like his art style is so cool. We also have like Fallout 76, very early on reference there. The expression of faces and things like that, which like obviously for Fallout 3's graphics, they don't come out looking this good. There's just something so beautiful and nostalgic about this for me. Now, I didn't get this when the game launched. I did get it well after the fact, but it's very special to me and makes me feel really happy to see and look at and like just appreciate, because Adam did such a good job with this art book. It's I mean, like he didn't make the art, but he did such a good job with the art of this game and bringing the style from like the 2D Fallout games into the 3D Fallout games and making it his own, but making it different. And then obviously Fallout 4 was made their own too, because they didn't want to just make a copy of Adam after he passed away. They wanted to do their own thing, but pay homage. His work with creatures is so fantastic, y'all. Adam did such a good job, and just seeing the concepts that didn't make it into the game too is really interesting, because some of these concepts come through later, or are, you know, references to the older Fallout games or references to pop culture. And it's just like, I want to ride a mole rat. I want that form of travel. That'd be so fun. But Adam did a really good job. So this is it. That's the collector's edition. Obviously a copy of the game as well. But this is all you would have gotten for the collector's edition of this game. The lunchbox, these 3 things, a copy of the game, and that's it. So there's something like so special about such a simple, concise, and beautiful collector's edition, and it makes me really happy looking back on it, as like now collector's editions have gotten like kind of like over the top and a little intense. And you know, I think like Starfield, I have the collector's edition sitting right here, and there's obviously another one that's unopened behind me somewhere back there. But like I think Starfield kind of went back to that type of collector's edition, because I think the Fallout 76 collector's edition is when Bethesda collector's editions kind of jumped the shark, if it were, as it were. And this was like when like collecting and all that just started to like really ramp up. Like this is so classic and simple. You don't need much. And of course, for a game that is making a lot of commentary on capitalism, consumerism, this feels like the right amount of stuff to go with that game. Like these things, the lunchbox in the game, and that's it. And there's something so special about that, at least to me, as a fan of the game. And it's why I'm so nostalgic for the stuff that's old. Like I love this art book. I do wish there was more to the art book, but there's something so beautiful about how simple and small it is, and how just classic this is, and it really feels right for what this game is. Now fast forward obviously to Fallout 76. We got the big helmet, and it came with some other pieces, and then it came with a map, and it came with so much stuff, and it was so big and massive that it's like, oh, it's kind of intense. Like it's too much for a Fallout game, you know what I'm saying? And almost too much for what Fallout 76 was. Like I don't personally play 76 very often, but I don't think it was like necessarily a game that needs to be hated on as much as it is, or at least the fan base doesn't need to be hated on, because, you know, at least the fan base is having fun, you know? But This is just, and the fact that it all fits in here, like the game would have fit in here as well, is so perfect for a collector's edition for a Fallout game. Like the experience of, because this was just wrapped in plastic, you open this and then inside is all of the components, and it feels right as like a Fallout fan. There's not this like outer box around it like there was for the Fallout 76 edition, or, it was just a lunchbox. And inside of it, you found a treasure trove of stuff. And that just felt so right as like to go with the vibe and the kind of starkness of Fallout 3, and just it's drab and it's kind of depressing in a way, and yet this is just such a perfect embodiment of everything about it. And the art on it is fantastic as well. Obviously, these lunchboxes have been recreated in different forms many times. Do I think that lessens the collector's edition element of it? Not really, because it is a different shape. So the Fallout 3 collector's edition is a very specific shape, and it's easy to recognize. Not everyone recognizes that that's what it is when they see it or sell it, and I really love that about Fallout 3, and it really is the perfect fit for that game, in my opinion. Now we have the game guide. So this is the collector's edition game guide. I do have the non-collector's edition and the soft cover, and I have the soft cover for all the game guides. I'm a big fan of the Fallout game guides. I love having a book of all the stuff that I collect, which is a lot. The books and like physical things like these, like the Fallout 3 collector's edition parts, so the DVDs and stuff like that, is my favorite parts of what I collect. And I really enjoy them, and there's something really special about this collector's edition because it tells you about the game after the fact. It gives you lore that, is debatable if it's canon or not, but there's something so special about the lore that is in this. But also what's great is these come with maps, and mine is in pretty pristine condition because I just keep it in the book. So this is a map of the Capital Wasteland, obviously. It's upside down, sorry. It's very glossy and perfect, and these are harder to come by nowadays. Like, it's harder to find these maps. I am a geographer, so I love maps. The functionality of these maps is kind of debatable because you have to like flip it over, so it would be kind of hard to keep, but I do really like it, and it's gorgeous, So that is something that's so special as a collector. Like, all the commercial stuff is great. Like, I love the Pip Boys and I love all the extra Vault Boys and stuff like that. But the way Fallout has gone, and it's going to continue to go with the show and everything, it's going to keep getting more and more commercial. So these like old bastions of yesteryear are just really like special to me, because this isn't plastered with branding for Vault Boy. This is just a map of Fallout 3, and I love that about it. So it's absolutely beautiful. And then I even have the Wasteland. So I have like some advertisements for this game guide, which is kind of funny in here. So this is like the exclusive collector's edition content, which is pretty good. You got to remember that these game guides are not necessarily canon always, but I do, and they're not always accurate. But there's just something so. Oh, I don't even know. Are we going to get one of these for Starfield? We did for 76. We did for Fallout 4. We did for Skyrim. But like, are we still going to get these? Because I know we can go and look everything up online, but there's something so nostalgic about a book. Like, God, call me old, but it feels so special to flip through a book and to do a quest and look it up in the book, like when you're lost, as opposed to just looking it up. Nothing wrong with the wiki or anything like that. I find it so compelling to look through the game guide for when I'm having issues or whatever. And there's something really, really special about that for me, personally. And it even shows you where to like look on the map if you're using the map, things like that. So this thing is special. It's beautiful and special, and it makes me really happy. And of course, we have the after story from Moira Brown here on the last page of the game guide, which is pretty cool. And she talks about experiments and a personal note, shipping out the survival guide, and talking about the Lone Wanderer, which is really cool. And I don't want to spoil it. You can look this up online, but it is such a cool thing to include at the end of it. A little bit of extra lore. Is it canon? That's debatable, but I just think that this is such a cool thing. The Fallout 3 version, I don't believe is numbered. I'm trying to find out if it is, because it would be somewhere on like the back cover or something like that. I don't think this one is a numbered collector's edition, or like the Fallout New Vegas one is. And it's so funny. these are just like, fans writing it basically, and it's pretty cool. And the foreword by Todd Howard, very special. So why has Fallout 3 like stood the test of time for me personally? I think obviously there's a level of nostalgia for Fallout 3 for me. Going back and replaying Fallout 3 reminds me of when I was young, because I started playing Fallout 3 when I was 16. I needed my mom's permission to help me get the game, which is funny because it was, the game rating was, I was too young for it. There's something so nostalgic and beautiful about Fallout 3. It's linear, but with exploration. And now coming into games now, there's so much going on that they can feel overwhelming. So for me, when I go back to Fallout 3 and I'm in a time where it's less overwhelming and I'm just exploring for the sake of exploration, it feels so different to me, and it feels so special to be in those environments. And just looking around and exploring is so fascinating. And to have a story that's relatively simple, like it's not a complicated story, Fallout 3 is, but it drives you to keep going forward. And I can pick the game back up and never get bored. I know the decisions I'm going to make are pretty much the same as what I would have made back then. And the nostalgia and the desire for me to like want to be able to play this game but not remember the ending and just have that fresh experience, like that's what I always am looking for in replaying it, is to have that experience of not remembering it necessarily. And I know I'll never get that, but there is that wonder that I have, that this was my first RPG as a kid. I went from only playing like Nintendo games and Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that, and then I started playing Fallout, and it was my first RPG ever, and it opened to my eyes to what the RPG world was. And I think because of that position where it stands in my memory, I will never have a game that tops it in some senses, because, I mean, like, there's some part of me that's always seeking that, oh, this is what an RPG is. This is exploration. This is doing something new. And this is making a difference in the game. Like hearing Three Dog talk about you over the radio and the decisions you've made and the changes you've made to the wasteland as you're making them was so surprising and exciting to me as a teen who, I wanted to make changes in the world and I wanted to make a difference. And, playing that game and hearing what I was doing real time happening over the radio was such positive reinforcement to keep me going. And I do think to some extent, obviously we have radio station in Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was 2015, it's near 10 years ago at this point. Has there been a game since that made me feel that way, where I was like, everything I was doing was changing things? I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure there's games out there, but nothing quite hits the mark for me like Fallout series does. Obviously, I'm a Fallout centered account to some extent, but something about Fallout 3's just the immersion of it. And I don't think we've had that like radio element in another game since New Vegas to that extent, where you really feel like, oh, wow, they're perceiving what I'm doing and I'm making a difference, or I'm destroying the wasteland, depending on what way you go. It's a special feeling. And for Fallout 3 to have been my first RPG, I think I will forever be trying to get back to that feeling of now learning and understanding through this game, oh, this is an RPG. This is what's special about an RPG. And the technology had come up to the point just enough to be good enough to really pull me in a different way, because, up until before the 360, yeah, the like 3D tech was there, but it wasn't as good. It was more cartoony. It wasn't as visually interesting. And to go and to play Fallout 3 and to see, like, I know Fallout 3 gets a bad rap of being like, oh, it's green and it's drab and everything's kind of got a bluish greenish hue. It makes me feel sick. But there's also like beautiful sunsets and beautiful vistas, and the visuals of Fallout 3 are more than just green. You got to go back and replay it. It is such a beautiful game for me, for the time. Obviously, we've come up a long way in the last 15 years, but for the time, it's so special. And to think that I've been playing this game for half of my life, like, is a crazy thought, because I'm 30. So yeah, it really is something that makes me incredibly happy. And to think back on it and to think that that was I bought that game, and I bought my first Xbox because of Fallout 3, the 360, because of Fallout 3. So that was my first Xbox ever. I had a PlayStation 2, and then I had a Sega Genesis. That is so special in my mind. And my first RPG to be Fallout 3 is so special. And yeah, I don't think anything will ever top that or bring me back to that feeling. I hope Fallout 5 does, but I don't know. There's just a special mix of that, the music, the art, the atmosphere, the effect you have on the game. The radio host, Three Dog, is such a mammoth in that game. And, what a perfect storm for this game to come out in 2008, to have the impact it's had on so many people. There's so many people who are still just posting Fallout. You guys are coming and watching Fallout content despite it being 15 years. That's wild. So I love Fallout 3. I think I always will. And I'm really glad you could hear me rant on this game, because it really is one of my all-time favorite games. And it will continue to be one of my all-time favorite games that I replay every year for probably the next 15 years to come, or even more, actually a lot more, if I get my way. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for coming out to my channel. I am back, and it is good to see y'all. All right, I will catch you in the next video. Peace.